had a problem with that. So did she get an attorney? This the gentleman that's suing her for wrongful occupation?
I believe that she does have an attorney.
Who's the attorney?
That I don't know.
Is it
And this
legal?
is not local. This is in the northern part of the state.
Okay. So do we know if it's a legal aid appointed attorney or?
I don't know. And I tried to get a hold of the lady today. I called yesterday and today, and I didn't get a response back on either call because I really wanted her to tell the full story. But yeah, I didn't get a response back. So I don't know.
I think she was quite generous personally. So
very generous. And what we keep finding out is that's usually the downfall. Like, don't be generous. Don't wait one extra day, because if you wait that one extra day, you get burned. So I would follow those dates, like here in Kanawha County, we got to wait till after that 20-day appeal period. But other counties don't. So if you're in a county that doesn't have to, I wouldn't wait. I'm sure now she's regretting. She's regretting being nice, but it's too late at this point. She's already done that. And I did not start recording this meeting at the beginning, so I just picked it up here a minute ago. So I apologize that the beginning of this meeting is cut off and people missed that. But we do have another situation. I think, John, you have the same situation, but we have another landlord.
This has been a busy pandemic year. I think everybody's went crazy is the only interpretation I can say. But I had an interesting thing where a lady had reported, this was back in July. Rent was due, of course, a couple months behind. And she had reported that her deck was weak. So that day she showed the property manager where it was at. She showed them, we wrote a work order, guys went over there, took a look at it, made a plan. And we had a few options about, it was the way the deck was situated. We were just going to shorten the deck because part of it wasn't covered. And we felt like that was contributing to the, some of the rot that she was seeing. So she was aware of the area that it was at. She was aware of, the condition. It wasn't in a common area. You had to actually go over to it. And long story short, right when rent was really due, and we were like, hey, you need to pay rent, she had an attorney within 3 days. They were already sending me letters. They were taking her case. She said she fell through, her leg fell through it. Now, so we went through this process. So I just turned it over to the insurance. But what happened during this process, it taught me a whole lot. But it also taught me that how important documentation is, because I keep work orders, I keep pictures, I keep, when somebody talks to a tenant, they actually document it. We keep text messages, and it was funny because during this process, the tenant then was claiming that it just happened. She didn't know about it. So we could clearly show a work order. We could show a document where the person she had showed them where the problem was. And long story short, because we had documentation, pictures, a timeline, everything that happened, apparently slip and falls are kind of hard they're harder, I think, now to come after landlords, especially if the tenant is aware of the issue. And so what kind of the saving grace of it, at least in my case, was she knew where it was. We could prove she knew where it was, and it wasn't in a common area. So ended up, long story short, the attorney fired her after we went back and forth about 6 different times with the providing documentation to the, they would ask questions. He didn't want her to be interviewed. Then he let her be interviewed. And then she claimed that she didn't know about it. And then we sent text messages of her acknowledging the problem. And then he fired her. And so I hope that's went away. I think I won, but who knows, right? So maybe she'll find somebody else to take her case. But that's the point of that particular is it's so important to document stuff. If you don't, you're really going to get bit. Because I can't tell you how many times, even going in court we had an eviction today. And the people left out of the unit. Luckily they left, but they trashed the unit. They left a dog in there, caked in poop, just absolutely wretched. I mean, I can't believe they lived in it, and they'd only been there 4 months. So they claimed, magistrate called them, and they claimed, oh, we moved out the 15th, and somebody must have broken in and done all this damage. So then we bring up text messages, then we bring up pictures, and the magistrate asked them, what are you doing, running a pound in there? So we won, but no, good luck getting the money. But the point is, without the documents, without the pictures, it's your word against theirs, and you're going to put yourself in a very precarious situation someday when you get a very professional lawsuit from somebody that's very aware of been through it, understands what they need to do, claim, whatever. Because during the process of getting sued last July, I was talking to the landlords, and one of the common things is people come down a set of steps and they'll claim that the step broke. And we had a landlord in our group that had to deal with that. So, and they ended up paying them too. So, it's
the one you're talking about, maybe the other one that I had, and that I'm not going to say which landlord, but we had a landlord that had a slip and fall. It wasn't the tenant, it was a family member. I think it was the mother. I might be wrong on that, but it was a family member of the tenant, slipped and fell and actually broke her ankle. So it wasn't really a fake slip and fall.
Mhm.
She really did slip and fall, break her ankle, and the insurance company did pay out $35,000 on that claim.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
But that's why we have insurance. Not that I ever want to use it,
Right.
because they will drop you eventually. But I mean, that's why you should have liability insurance adequate to cover. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. We had a landlord, I didn't know them, but what was that family, that woman that had a house in Charleston that burnt, that killed 6 or 7 people in it? That was 3 or 4 years ago. You guys
I think
remember
it was
that?
more than that. I think it was more people than that.
It was horrible. So you need to remember that when you have coverages and the type of insurance and the insurance company. I mean, Tori, you may have input as to, I always feel overinsured, and maybe that's a good thing, but it's also, I don't know, does that expose you to anything, Tori, or what's the proper?
No, we always, we're overinsured, so to speak, because you never know. I mean, you can do your best to have your units well maintained, et cetera, but all it takes is for them to take the battery out of the smoke detector and use it for something else in their house, and then have a fire and somebody die, So we always were over, and still, I mean, I made sure, even though we've only got 3 properties left, I made sure that we still had the umbrella, the $1 million umbrella. Because you just never know. I mean, anything could happen, and I won't even give examples because you can all imagine. But John, all new landlords should really listen to your dissertation. I'm sorry I cut out. I don't know what happened. One of my outlets, I must have blown a fuse or something. But anyway, they should listen to what you're saying about documentation, because that is so critical. And in West Virginia, it is a 49.51% state, so that, if you are not more than 50% negligent, then the tenant cannot recover anything. So that's why the lawyer dropped that case, because you could have argued that because she knew about the hole in the deck, and she went out there anyway, obviously without, looking or whatever she did, that she was actually more than 50% negligent as compared to you, who were already getting ready to fix it. So that's something to realize, that, you would have to be more than 50% negligent for them to get a judgment in a court of law. Now, insurance companies a lot of times will pay something, sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. But also the fact that you had the 30-day lease, and, I know people have heard me say this before, but this saves the problem of the evictions, because we had a case during COVID, during the non-eviction period, and the magistrate said, I'm sorry, your lease is up. It doesn't matter. They're not asking for any money, which, we didn't ask for any money. We simply said the lease was over. Even though she hadn't paid for a couple of months, but we didn't ask for money. It just wanted the unit. And the magistrate said, look, I'm sorry, it's a 30-day lease. Your lease is up. You have to go. So, that really is something that has saved us during the COVID situation. The lady that you brought up, I mean, that was a mistake. To me, that case is over. So now it's a new case. I mean, she should have put them out when she had her time. And now that months have gone by, to me, if I were the judge, I would say, look, if I were the tenant, I would believe that you still were wanting to keep them as your tenant. And so now you're wanting to evict them again, but now she's got her form that says it's because of COVID. So yeah, that's bad. That's a bad situation. So she's just gonna lose some money. That's all that, as far as that goes, but she's just gonna have to start over.
I'm going to back up and re-explain that situation because I failed to start the recording at the beginning. So anybody watching the recording missed out on the situation.
Oh, okay. And doesn't understand. Yeah.
We're going to back up and recap that. So one of our landlords got an eviction with immediate possession in October. She decided to wait until January to physically remove them because she was trying to be nice. And at that point, we were supposed to have the moratorium expire at the end of December. So she decided to wait until January. On December the 4th, the tenant provided her a CDC form, but she had gotten immediate possession back in October, and it was past the 20-day appeal period. So she went ahead in January and physically removed the tenant. Now the tenant is suing her for wrongful eviction. So she is having to fight that. They do have a court date and are going to have to fight that. The only thing as the group that I thought we could do was try to go through the Attorney General and see if we could get West Virginia as a state that says it's unconstitutional, which Tori, you might be able to, I think I called you on this one and you recommended that I call the Attorney General. They have not responded. That was
really
yesterday. That was
that's a shame.
And they have not responded.
Now, when did you call them?
It was toward the end of the day yesterday. So they did not.
Oh, yeah, well, you didn't give them enough time.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, yesterday was too late in the day. I knew I wasn't going to get a response, but they did say they would call me back today, and I didn't.
Yeah. Give them a day or two anyway.
Yeah. So I don't
get back with you on that.
I don't know whether they'll be willing to kind of go to bat for us on that. The only state that's been successful is Texas. All of the other states, it didn't fly. There's probably going to be an appeal with the Texas case, so we don't know what's going to happen. The bad thing is, by the time this all gets resolved in court, we'll be done with it. I mean, it'll all be, and the damage will have been done to the landlord already. There's already been a lot of damage done to us.
And so the new extension now on the moratorium is July, end of July. Is that correct for everybody? It's moved. They moved it till the summertime.
Yes, end of July is what I saw.
Thank you.
And guess what? It'll probably be extended again. Like we're just.
Well, it's probably too late. Yeah, if you don't have a 30-day lease already, if you've got a year's lease and your lease is going to extend, but if you rented to the person, see what this is April. So if you rented to them back in, March of 2020, the lease is over. So that's the argument I would use is, hey, their lease has expired. So.
And Tori, that's what I've actually been doing during this pandemic. I've actually been issuing month-to-month leases.
Yeah.
Leases.
That has saved us so many times. It's hard to believe how much that has saved us. So, but yeah, that's during the pandemic, without the pandemic. But yes, if you did it, in anticipation for sure that this could go on, and of course it doesn't matter if they've hurt the unit or whatever. But, as far as for non-payment, just don't ask for any money. I would say that when you evict somebody, don't ask for a monetary judgment. So.
Most of the ones that I've dealt with evictions, they've always breached the lease. It's been a common moving a pet that they shouldn't have.
Oh, well, that, yeah.
Noise complaints, it's been very, And that's typical, right? I mean, typically we just worry about just getting them out, but now we make sure that all breaches are included. So
Right, exactly.
Tori, are you finding that you have higher turnover rates since you've gone to the month-to-month lease?
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. Because remember, even if you have a year's lease, if they want to leave after 4 months, they're going to leave, and the magistrates will not give you a judgment for those 8 extra months of that lease.
you'll have to go back and sue them for the months that you suffered after the fact, not, you can only go backwards, not forwards.
Yeah, I've never known anybody to get a judgment, at least in Kanawha County, and by saying, look, they breached their lease, there's 8 more months to this lease, they owe me 500 times 8. I mean, I've never known anybody to get that kind of judgment. So what's the advantage of a year's lease? I don't see it at all. And especially the advantage of a 30-day has just been so great. Okay, started. Oh, I don't know.
Lou, are you meaning to do a screen share?
I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, Lou's doing a screen share.
Lou
I
did it.
Huh?
I think Lou had done it accidentally.
Okay, I'm gonna hit the button to stop. There, I hit the button.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I thought my electric had gone out, but
No.
before I just went blank. So anyway, I changed plugs, but anyway, yeah, that's definitely argue on your eviction that the lease is over if it's over, and you know, there's not much argument against that. You know.
Oh, if you're doing a 30-day lease though, do you then have to give them a 30-day notice?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We always give them a 30-day. Yeah, yes. You give them a 30-day notice. Yes.
Okay.
If
Can
the
you
lease
address,
I'm sorry.
They have the extra month, you know, absolutely.
okay. Can you
Because-
address apologizing to the tenant?
Did what now?
Can you address apologizing to the tenant? Like if somebody slips and fall, even saying something like, I'm so sorry that happened to you?
Well, are you saying that would be an admission?
Well, yeah, I'm asking, would that be construed as an admission if you say you're sorry that something happened to them?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think you're saying that you caused it. You know, oh, no, every time a tenant's called with an injury, it's like, oh my gosh, you know, I hate that, you know, and, but the facts are what are going to prevail. It doesn't, you know, because you're sorry that somebody got hurt. I mean, we had somebody get seriously injured. It wasn't our tenant, it was a family member that they had moved in that, you know, we didn't know. It was only a 1-bedroom apartment. So it's not like you can move family members into a 1-bedroom, and she was drunk and hurt herself really badly, but we did not accept liability. We did not accept responsibility at all because, you know, she was intoxicated, impaired. And so that was her, here again, you know, that was her responsibility that she, you know, was also negligent. So anyway, so, but I was very sorry that it happened to the woman. She was hurt. And I told my tenant, oh my gosh, you know, I'm very sorry that she got hurt, but it's not my fault, you know, so. And our insurance company did not pay, by the way. So, yeah.
John, did you have something to add there?
Mhm.
John disappeared on us.
Oh,
Oh, no, can you, no, I do not.
Okay, I'm going to add a little more to the story of the wrongful eviction suit. The guy, they showed up for their first court date on it, and the judge was getting ready to rule in favor of the landlord, and the tenant said, hey, what about my jury trial? He had marked jury trial in the paperwork and they had missed it. So here the judge was getting ready to give, you know, award everything, or I don't know how you word that, but getting ready to rule that the landlord was in the right and the tenant was in the wrong. And he said, oh, what about my jury trial? And he had marked it as a jury trial. So now it is actually going to a jury trial. And that's why she's so scared is, you know, who's on this jury? Who knows? You don't know. It's scary when you got a jury trial.
Is it at circuit level or magistrate level?
Magistrate level, I believe, but I've never heard of a jury trial in magistrate. So
Does
Yes,
that,
you
you
can.
can have a jury trial in magistrate court, yes. And, but, you know, you have to pay for your jury if you lose a case. But of course, they let people not even have to post a bond, all they have to do is claim they're a pauper, and they don't have to even post a bond. So,
Tori, would that mean her maximum exposure is $10,000 since that's the maximum you can ask for in
Yeah.
magistrate court? Okay.
Yes.
Would that be 10,000 though, plus the cost of the jury?
Well, it's only about 250 for the jury, I think. Now, I guess it would depend on how long it goes, but a case like that's only going to go one day.
Yeah.
So, and in John's case too, where the person sued him for the unit being uninhabitable, I've never had a magistrate even look twice at that, because they say, well, if it's uninhabitable, why do you want to stay? So that doesn't even make sense. That's the countersuit for you. You're trying to evict someone and they countersue and say, well, it's uninhabitable. Well, then don't you want to leave? So it's just kind of, I guess, throw something against the wall and maybe it'll stick kind of theory. But yeah. But yeah, you have a right to a jury trial in magistrate court. Absolutely.
Has anybody else on this Zoom, has anybody else been sued?
I was a long time ago, but he never showed up.
What was he suing for?
I can't even remember now. He said the property had a hole in it where a mouse was getting in, but I never could find the hole.
He sued you for a hole where a mouse came through. That's something.
$3,000. Said he'd been, I guess he'd been disturbed or something by psychological damage, afraid of getting bit at night or something like that.
Wow.
Goes.
I mean, truly, anyone can sue for anything.
Yeah, they can.
You can sue for anything, and there's a good example right there. That's crazy.
I got him back for that though. He got drunk and had a party and pulled out a shotgun and shot at somebody, and I had to evict him.
Wow. Anybody else been sued?
We've been sued twice by former tenants who disagreed with their security deposit return.
How did those go?
The first one, the guy said, "Oh, whoops, I'm sorry," and he dropped it. And the other guy, he sued. We had bought a property from an estate, and the estate had every piece of paper ever done for the whole building, and they brought it with them, and he sued us and he sued them, and there was no security deposit. He was suing for a security deposit that didn't exist, first of all. Second of all, he sued the day he moved out. Like, you got 60 days, bud. So the judge was like, yeah, I don't know what you want me to do here. Case dismissed, never come back.
Yeah.
So otherwise, in 10 years, that's it.
I would like to add something to that. That reminded me of a situation I just dealt with literally today. And it's a situation where there was a purchase of property, and and it was actually a relative of mine who bought this building, and it was about 3 months ago. And so the tenant's been there, he bought it with the lease in effect. And so the tenant moved out and then sent him a text and said, well, what about my security deposit? Well, when he bought this building, it has other commercial aspects to it as well, but it was from a bank that had foreclosed. Well, they didn't give him, a security deposit that had been deposited by this lady 3 years ago. And it was an estate situation, just like you're describing. And the person had died, and then the bank had to take it over. So I told my relative that, well, she needs to file a claim against the estate to get her deposit back, because that's who she paid the money to. So the moral of that story is, because she's not going to get any money, but the moral of that story is, if you do purchase an apartment building or a house or whatever that's a rental, be sure that when you are getting the property, that the person who is selling it to you with a lease intact also gives you the deposit. So we
In
just
this
sold-
particular case, there was no deposit. There had never been a deposit. He was just trying to get something. for
Right,
nothing.
and I understand that in your case, but I'm just saying for the benefit of the landlords, if you do buy a piece of property with a lease intact, be sure to get, because they'll come back just like in your case, in that case, it's a little different where it didn't exist. But in the case I dealt with today, it did exist. The lady really did 3 years ago put down a deposit, and she left the unit really nice. So I feel sorry for her, but my relative shouldn't have to pay her for it because he didn't get any money. He did not get a deposit when he bought the property. So her only recourse is to go against the estate, and there's not even been an estate created after 2 years. So that means there's nothing there. So she's not going to get her deposit back. But for you guys, you want to be sure when you buy something, you get, and it has a lease intact, be sure and get that deposit. I mean, we sold a lot of our properties, and we had to give the new owner the deposits. So, because it's not our money, it's the tenant's money that's being held. So anyway, thank you. When you brought that up, I'd kind of forgotten to mention that other issue I dealt with just today.
My understand. Oh, go ahead, John.
I was just gonna say, I real quick, I've had two issues with that. The first one was security deposits. Again, documentation, brought pictures, showed damages. She sued me because we retained her security deposit, but we sent her an itemized list like you're supposed to do. And that's another thing. When your tenant moves out and you're going to retain that deposit, you need to send them a form within 60 days that itemizes the damages and why you're keeping the money. And if they owe you money also, don't forget that there's a penalty if they come after you and you didn't do that and you did keep their security deposit. The second one, and this is always the luck of the draw, lady just painted half the wall. It was so dirty, she just painted half the wall, wasn't even straight. So we retained her security deposit to paint the house. The magistrate split the baby. So, it was $600 and he kept 300, basically split it. And it wasn't fair, had pictures. It was totally, I could have appealed it this, but it's $300. Sometimes it's not worth the effort, but that also can happen. So, some people are very good at that. And what we found, and I learned this from this incident, when we check records at the courthouse, we also check who they sue, because we found that this particular lady sued about she didn't have any suits against her, but she sued every landlord she's ever been with. And it creates a pattern. So so that was a kind of a new thing for me is, okay, check who they sue, because it seems very telling to the types of people you deal with. So before you put them in your unit, it's always nice to know as much as you can about them. Sorry, Jennifer, I just wanted to make sure I added that.
Oh no, that's a good tips there. I completely forgot what I was going to say, so it wasn't important, I guess.
Sorry.
Has anybody else been sued?
Yeah, we've been sued about 3 years ago, and it was, of course, the insurance paid. I'll tell you a little bit about it. It was a day to collect rent. I was on my way up there, and she texted me and said not to come because her son had fallen on the steps, and she was on her way to the emergency room with him. So I went straight up to the place anyway and marked it all off, caution tape, and called somebody right away to come repair it that evening. I think I talked to John about it previously. We discussed some things that we had in common with our suits. But anyway, in a couple of days, I went ahead and turned it over to insurance the very next day, and she came to talk to him. But by that time, they had retained an attorney, and so they wouldn't talk to her. So anyway, as it turned out, the insurance paid it. It wasn't very much, and it was really good because the emergency room doctor had said that he had admitted that he'd been smoking pot, and that he said he was a really obese person. And so the emergency room doctor felt that it was probably his fault. Now, the steps were 2x10s on the boards, and they were on with really long, deep oh, what are those long connectors that you put, I can't think of it. It's like screws, deck screws. They were fastened with deck screws. So I don't know how it came down, but the step completely gave way with him. And he was, I don't know, maybe 350 pounds. So she went ahead and the insurance, they went ahead and paid. Thank goodness it wasn't a jury trial or anything like that, but it was only, I think it was $12,000. And they said it would have cost them more to fight it. And so, but they told them that they on the paper they sent to me, it said that the landlord was not at fault, that we had done everything right, that because of the patient's weight and because he had been smoking marijuana, that we couldn't be held at fault. So we were okay with that. And my insurance didn't go up either, so that was good.
Oh, good. How about anybody else? Anybody else been sued?
One thing I wanted to mention about insurance that comes to mind, some landlords will keep an individual policy per location versus having a blanket commercial policy. And a lot of the reasoning I've heard of that before, that other older landlords have done that, is that their thought is that if they have an accident at one location, that they may cancel that location, but they can't cancel their other locations. Versus a commercial policy that's blanket. And if they cancel the commercial policy that covers 12 units, it would affect all their units. So I don't know how it's more expensive to do it that way, but it's just something I've heard other people, the approach they've taken and the philosophy they've had about it. I don't know if anybody has any input on that.
I do keep just the commercial policy on all of my properties just because it's so much cheaper per unit when I lump them all together. But I take really good care of my properties. If people have kind of properties or kind of tenants that aren't as desirable, that I would say that may be a good way to go.
Well, I'm one of those people who has properties and bottom feeding tenants. And then so far it's that blanket policy still worked out okay for us. Nobody has claimed that they've been hurt in any place claimed so far.
I was sued, we were, our corporation was, slip and fall on ice. And I don't know, our insurance company was just not wanting to pay for the injury because they felt like he was at fault. I mean, it was ice, it had snowed and we had actually treated, but there was one section that for some reason, it didn't totally get unfrozen, but he came out, he had his baby in a car seat in one arm. He had the diaper bag on his shoulder and his briefcase in the other. So, he wasn't able to hold, we have handrails, didn't hold on to the handrail, he stepped down and then got to his car. And then that's when he slipped with the baby and the briefcase and the backpack and the da-da-da-da. So anyway, our insurance company didn't want to pay, so he did sue. And they ended up paying, It wasn't that much, $15,000. I think he broke a bone, actually. It's been a long time ago. But.
For any of you guys that use property management software, John, I always forget which one you use. I use Buildium. What do you use, John?
Propertyware.
Okay. A lot of those type of management softwares have add-on portals and things you can use that's an inspection portal. I have just started using Buildium's add-on inspection portal because that'll timestamp everything. So if I go into an inspection or whatever, and I've got that report and there's no faking that happened when it didn't, I can't say that happened at a different time than it happened because it is timestamping everything for when I did that inspection. So that might be a good idea if you guys use a property management software. You might want to use everything tracking, like John said, tracking all your work orders. And I'm bad about that. When somebody sends in a work order and I complete it, I delete it instead of updating it. I probably should update it and document everything. John, I should be more like you. But But yeah, I need to do that.
Well, I think it's always telling when you go to court and the tenant's claiming that you've never done anything to that unit. And you always got this report of 15 or 20 different work orders that they've called and completed. So it does make a difference.
We've actually had the opposite too, where they claim they've called and called and called. And we look back at our call software and there's not a single call from them. So that's been helpful in court a couple of times for eviction stuff.
What kind of call software do you use that tracks that?
Right now we use phone.com. We used to use Ring Central, but then it got nice and expensive. So we use phone.com, which has some limitations, but it works out okay for what we do. They can pick different extensions that we check at different times. And also it masks our number when we call out.
Oh, that's interesting. Can I ask how much that runs per month?
I think it's around $80 a month.
Okay. John, what are you paying with Ring Central?
I have some extra phone lines, but I think it's $159 a month.
Yeah, we're looking to reevaluate because phone.com, it's gone up in price, but not in features. And we really liked Ring Central, but it went way up in price.
Yeah,
So-
if somebody texts like my main office number, it goes out in email. If somebody leaves a voicemail, it transcribes it in text and emails it. If I've got it set up, you call in, you can go to maintenance, property management, or emergency, and it calls everybody simultaneously. And under property management, it may call the first person. If they don't answer, the second person. If they don't answer, the third person. It does it sequentially. So there's a lot of nice little features. I have some. I took my home phone number and added it to it, and so I have a virtual home number, but I don't have a physical phone. And so when somebody calls my old home number, it just calls both my cell phone number and my wife's. So I don't have a need. Oh, and it also rings a local phone, but the purpose is so it just makes it so virtual. So
Do both of those services accept text messages as well?
And I can send a
Phone.com
fax.
does.
Yeah.
And a fax, if they can use that quaint technology ever, except for the HUD office, I never use it.
But I can, because you have a Ring Central, I can send an email to the number at rcfax.com and it automatically fax it to that number. So it gives you that. You don't have a real fax. It's just it's an email based fax. So that's a neat little feature. And if you get a fax, it brings it in as email.
Okay.
That way tenants don't have our personal cell phones because we have an office number, but it's just a virtual office number. And I don't want them texting me. I want them texting so it's documented. And please don't call me. Yeah, call the main number like you're supposed to and leave a message.
Yeah, I'm having issues with phone right now because I used to have 2 cell phones and then I used a property management company last year. And so I got rid of my business phone. Now I'm just still dealing with my one phone and people are texting me literally at 4 o'clock in the morning. Hey, I'm interested in this rental. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, what in the world? People don't care what time they call you. So I think I'm going to have to sign up for one of these services.
Can you set yourself to do not disturb?
No, because I want, my family or somebody else to be able to call me. I've heard somebody say there's a way to set it to where it only silences some people and not others. I'm not very tech savvy, so I need some help from somebody to figure out how to do that. But I really do need to do that.
We use eVoice for ours. Off the top of my head, I don't know what it costs per month. Ed pays that. But it also does all of the features that they were talking about. We receive texts, we have voicemails, and it rings straight to my cell phone, but it rings into my cell phone as the business line. So you can differentiate whether it's a personal call or whether it's a business line call. And then you have the option when you answer it, it'll tell you who's actually calling. So you can see if it's a tenant calling or if it's an outside person. So I have specific business hours. So after business hours, if it is not a tenant, I send it to voicemail. If it's a tenant, then I'll go ahead and answer it. Because usually after business hours, if a tenant's calling in, they're usually calling me for a reason.
Right.
Mine's set up, and that's what I like too, because you can, like property management, you could send those to voicemail automatically after hours. But emergency, you want to know, because it could be a flood, it could be a fire, it could be, so you want everybody, and that's 24 hours. So you can differentiate. Same number, just a different option.
John, does it give you a different ring or something for emergency so that you know?
No, I've never set that up like that. I don't know if you can set it up like that, Jennifer. But it'll call everybody simultaneously.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
only
we
thing
don't
with
wanna totally-
e-voice is that you cannot send or receive like picture messages. You don't get that part of it. You can get regular text messages. You can send regular text messages, but you cannot, like if they try to send you a picture of something, those don't come through with e-voice.
You get
That's the only disadvantage.
you get pictures with Ring Central, Jennifer.
Okay.
So if somebody, like say for example, they couldn't attach their license or something to an online application and they text it to you, then it'll come as an email as an attachment.
What about phone?
Yeah, that's the
Phone.com can receive MMSs also.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only disadvantage of e-voice is that we cannot receive text, picture messages at all.
This whole
But-
Zoom has gone from the topic we were supposed to talk about to let's find Jennifer a phone service. All right, we'll go back to the topic if you guys want to talk about legal stuff again. Has anybody on the call been, anybody else on the call been sued? Sounds like no.
Sounds like
basically-
except everybody's cousin or everybody's tenant's cousin is a lawyer and they're going to call you tomorrow.
Yes. And usually, you know, they say that and then you never hear anything, but in cases you do. But one thing is watch your deadlines. When you get a piece of paperwork, pay attention to what those deadlines are to file any paperwork back. Our big thing that we kept talking about is document everything, and retain it. And then some lawyers will tell you don't apologize, and some will tell you, just so everybody knows on this call that doesn't know Tori is a lawyer in West Virginia. So, and yeah, and if you do use an online property management software, try to document through that and get everything to where everything's time stamped in there. So any other topics you guys want to talk about? I know some people had some questions on the rental assistance program. If y'all want to jump in with those.
I just want to ask you one thing. Let's see, I think I'm on. Let's see here. I think
Yeah,
I'm
you're on
mute. Okay. Just one thing I wanted to ask you about, Jennifer. How did you ever track down a Great House person?
Did I track down
You
what?
sent that out about the folks, the lady Great House, you know, when she left your place in such a mess.
Oh yes.
Well,
I'm waiting. I did
Well,
get
I
her
saw your
served.
listing.
Yeah, I did get her
You did?
served, and we did go to court. She did not show up for court, and she was served. So I did get possession and did get judgment. I was waiting out the 20-day appeal period before I go and garnish her wages. I do know where she works.
Nice.
So I have a feeling she'll quit after or she'll go try to appeal or something after I start garnishing her wages. But yes, I did get her served.
And they're
When I
still
saw your ad, and then you said if anybody else had rented for this person, had rented to her, and I thought, oh my gosh, yes, we did about 5 years ago. But at that time, she was with her husband, and he was really a nice guy, and he had a really great job. He was a crane operator, but they had 2 teenage boys living there. Everybody seemed to be fine, except she was such a problem. She would call me and say, I don't have transportation. Can you take me somewhere? Well, of course not. But anyway, she had just gone to see a friend's house, and I'm thinking it was probably a drug run, because when she decided to leave and they all left together with her, she had broken a couple of windows because she had locked herself out and got back in. They did a little bit of damage, but she put the keys in a 24-hour delivery envelope and sent it to our house. And when we went down there, her husband had left, I don't know, about $5,000 worth of tools. And he
Wow.
never did call to get them. So see, I guess she and he have been divorced in the meantime because he was a really nice guy, but I guess he couldn't put up with it anymore.
Yeah. That's a
He was
shame
on a lot
that
of
you have
drugs at
somebody that was,
point. I just wish there was some,
I didn't hear the last part. You wish what?
I wish there was some way to, I wish there was some way we could kind of share these instances with each other, because that would save us a lot of trouble. I mean, had you known that I'd had that much trouble with her, you would have rented to him in the first place.
Right. It's bad. I felt okay sharing that one because I did have, you know, I did file court documents, which are public. So I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong to share her name and the video of what she did to my property because I have court documents on it. That's touchy. Tori will probably tell us not to do that. What do you think, Tori? Is Tori still on here?
She's muted.
Are you saying, as we're talking at this meeting, not to share names of tenants who have destroyed your property?
Yeah, that's the question. Are we okay to share names when people have?
I mean, I think what we had said we shouldn't do was have a written list
Right.
that we posted on the computer, but, I mean, I don't have a problem with, like, as we're talking today, if we have a tenant who has destroyed our property, I wouldn't mind telling you guys about it because, we can give each other references. And I find it disheartening that when you call a fellow landlord for a reference, they want to get rid of the tenant, so they give you a good reference.
Yeah.
And to me, that's more, dishonest than if I've got a tenant. And like you say, if the court documents are public record, which they are, and if that's already public record, what's their argument going to be? Oh gosh, they talked about me at a meeting. No.
I think we talked about this last year at one of the meetings. I think me and John were talking about that. Why couldn't we get a list of everybody, where everybody could access it somewhere?
Yeah.
This tenant did this, owes me X number of dollars.
Yeah.
Destroyed the property, but we were afraid to be too much liability incurred in that. If somebody found out we were keeping this list, it'd be discriminatory or something.
Right. I wouldn't put it in writing. I mean, that's just, that's just a kind of asking for somebody to call it slander or libel or something like that. But the thing is, even with slander and libel, if it's the truth,
Truth's the truth.
they can't sue you for it. Yeah, I mean, they can sue you because anybody can sue you for anything, but the truth is an absolute defense against libel and slander. So if what you're saying is true about the individual, and like you're saying, Jennifer, you've got documentary evidence that it's true, what are they going to say? Well, she reported the truth about me to people. Well, sorry. So, but yeah, a written document is just, I don't know, is asking to me. I don't think we should do that just because,
I've gotten bad written references from previous landlords. Say, no, don't rent to them.
That's good. Oh, I know. And I'm always honest when somebody, but I'll tell you, it's tempting. It's really tempting when you get one of those in the mail and they want you to sign up. I mean, I can't give them a glowing report, and then of course I get them. I don't even remember the person. And I just say, I'm sorry, I don't remember them, but yeah.
So I saw some posts on the Facebook saying don't buy from this lady or this gentleman because they've been not honest or their sales or stuff like that. So I initiated like a year ago a group on the Facebook. It said the title is Kanawha and Putnam County Tenants. So if any of you can go in and just put the names or whatever what they did, that would be a good reference on the Facebook for all of us. I'm not sure if this is legal or not, but I think it's a way, because I try even to call some landlords and ask about previous tenant to them. They don't answer back, or they don't call back. I don't know. So I think if you have a bad tenant and we can update it weekly or monthly, that would be helpful for all of us.
Is that a private Facebook page just for the West Virginia Landlords Association?
No, it's a public, but anybody can join, and we can make it private. I mean, we can make it private for only for the members, but it's a way so everyone can know if this tenant is a good tenant or bad, or he had a bad history with other landlords.
That may be something we want to share within our Landlords Association private page, is if you do get a bad one, go ahead and share that on the page, and nobody can see that but us. Ours is completely private.
Yeah, I would advise making that private.
Yeah.
You know, just, I mean, as you say, you can give a bad review. I mean, you know, if you have a bad meal at Tidewater Grill, you can put that on their you know, their evaluation page, or you can put it on Facebook. I had a horrible dinner at Tidewater Grill, and that's the truth. So they can't sue you because you told the truth. And in your opinion, it was terrible. But I mean, I don't know. That's just me. I wouldn't want that to be public Facebook. I would make that a private group for fellow landlords. But
And I think Jennifer mentioned this in, I think, one of the posts about going, take the time to go down to the courthouse, because if I've evicted somebody, you know, there's a reason, and you need to pay attention when you find somebody with an eviction. There's a reason. You know, it's one thing to give a tenant a 30-day notice, get rid of them, but when you take the time to evict them, there probably is something even more than just the money that's owed. When a landlord's getting rid of the tenant, I mean, I always pay very close attention to one, do they have wrongful occupations, and two, did they pay them? Because if they paid them, I have a different perspective than if they just got a wrongful occupation and they just left the landlord high and dry. So just an interesting, go to the courthouse, do the checks, and I think you'll discover a lot more than a reference from a landlord, what type of person you're dealing with. Because if they're a crummy person, not only are you going to see wrongful occupations, you're also going to see all the criminal activity they've been involved with, you know, at the courthouse. And the courthouse is, in West Virginia, any courthouse provides the absolute information, at least for things that occur in all counties. These nationwide checks do not provide that kind of stuff. Credit checks just kind of show their credit worthiness, but I'm like Jennifer. It's very hard to get the courthouses right now. And I'm circumventing even my own recommendation, because I'm doing background checks through the online, because it's so difficult to get to the courthouse, schedule an appointment, get there, you know, to check the tenant, and you may have lost a good tenant. So
yeah, they've been taken recently in Kanawha County 2 days to get in. So I had a tenant that wanted in very quickly. Everything else looked good. I actually drove to Parkersburg to go to the magistrate court. I wouldn't have done that, except I have rentals in Parkersburg too. And I was like, okay, I can go work on my rental house while I'm there anyway. But I know there's other counties where you don't have to make an appointment. You can just walk in. I don't know which ones are allowing that and which ones aren't, but Wood County, you can walk right in without an appointment. Does anybody else have any other topics they'd want to talk about? Jordan, you're new on here. I know you're muted, so you'll need to unmute yourself. You're not new to real estate by any means, but you're new here. So I was going to see if you wanted to introduce yourself and yeah, kind of what you'd like to see out of the group.
Sure. Hey, everybody. I'm Jordan Christ. We started out mainly doing fix and flips, but just lately.
Who's we?
Me and my business partner, Jacob, he is going to go pick up his kids right now from Ohio, so he's not on the call. but we started out doing a lot of fix and flips and just noticed we're getting a ton of leads on rental properties. So we've been doing a lot of rentals lately. Some of the softwares that you guys mentioned, I don't use Buildium or the other one that was mentioned, but I've been using apartments.com, and I really like it to get tenants applying. Apartments.com charges the applicant for the background and credit checks, and they're pretty good too. I think it's $24.99 charged to the applicant, so we don't have to pay that. And then for them to apply, they actually have to set up an account using their email. So once they set up their account, now they have an account, and you can actually take their rent through apartments.com too, and that comes with no fee. So we don't pay a fee for it. The tenant does not pay a fee for it as long as they're using their bank account. I think a debit card and a credit card, they have an option to pay that way, but they have to pay a fee for that, for a processing fee. But with their bank account, it's free of charge for them. And they can also submit maintenance requests in there, and then we can just forward those straight to our property manager. The call services that you guys were talking about, very interesting, because I have them constantly texting, calling my personal cell phone, which is always fun to get those to your personal cell phone. And I think it was John that mentioned the one he's using. It will ring to different people, and the first one to pick up can answer that. So that would be great for me, my business partner, and my maintenance person if we could get all three of us on there. So that's a good takeaway for me from tonight. And then I've got quite a few that are behind on rent for one reason or other. Some of them just haven't got caught up from the whole COVID thing, and they're waiting for this stimulus or that stimulus. So I have been sending them the COVID relief page on the West Virginia Landlords Association website, and having quite a few of them go ahead and apply for that. So that was a good resource that I was hoping we'd be able to touch on a little bit tonight. I think out of the 30 tenants we have, I think 3 or 4 of them are behind, and maybe just by a month or 2 months. One of them had some surgery recently, and it's taken him a little while to recover. So I'm hoping that will provide him some assistance. So yeah, that's what we're into. That's what we're doing. We're buying a lot of property right now. So it's been a good first quarter to 2021. That's for sure.
So if any of you landlords are wanting to sell your property, you know who
Might be your guy.
It might be the one.
I see Rick raising his hand over there.
I want to
sell, Rick?
You can have all mine.
Yeah, I can have them all. I don't know if I have that much money, but we could definitely take a look at them.
I'll make you a good deal.
Okay. And I'm not very area specific. We have them all over. Nitro, St. Albans, South Charleston's where I live. That's where I prefer. Dunbar. We have a couple on the west side. Some good, some not so good. We bought them in a package of like 8 properties. So the ones on the west side are they're my more problematic ones, I would say. Just with all the commotion going on over there right now. And then the one in Dunbar that I have, it's a really good property. I just inherited a tenant that is really they're just a mess. They're just not very clean. They get roaches and rats and stuff like that. And there's like literally nothing I can do for them besides say, listen, clean your stuff up, keep your cat food in one area, don't get any more cats, call this extermination company. I don't know what to do for the guy. So hopefully I don't get sued over his uncleanliness, but I don't think I will.
I would document that for sure and send them notices to clean that stuff up, because if somebody reports that in to the building inspector, if you're talking about Dunbar hates landlords. I don't want to say they hate landlords. They are not landlord friendly. We'll say that.
Right.
So if someone reports that house into the Dunbar building department, they're going to be all over you. So you need to document that you've served them notices, that you have documentation of their, dog food, cat food out, that you've told them what to do. Document all of that very well.
Okay.
And ultimately the landlord is responsible for infestations. And I think you'll find roaches and rats, if you let them get a hold, it's far more harder and expensive to ultimately clear it, even if they end up leaving. It's better to go ahead and get a handle on it now, charge her, and you pay it and get it taken care of, or you're probably going to find it a far more expensive proposition down the road.
Is that something I can bill back to them?
Absolutely.
There's a product called Just One Bite at Greens Feed and Seed that will take care of your rats. I had a situation at a house that I bought and it was infested, and I was using all the Lowe's rat stuff and they were just like walking around it. And a farmer told me about Just One Bite, and they literally, it was the freakiest thing ever. I threw some out in the kitchen and I stood there and they came out while I was standing there. They came out from under the cabinets to get to it, like right in front of me. So Just One Bite at Greens Feed and Seed, that will get rid of your rats.
But keep in mind the liability of you doing the pest control. That there, if you, we had a lady from the West Virginia Department of Agriculture talk to us before, and their kind of guidance that I understood. I don't know, Jeff, if you took the same way, but if you own more than 4 units, you need to use pest control professional company. If you own less than 4 units, you can do it yourself. But there is techniques around that. For example, like if you're going to buy the stuff, give it to the tenant and let them put it out, but don't be the one putting it out. So I remember a story I'd heard when I first joined the association where one of the landlords had came around and sprayed the outside. And by the time he was spraying, the tenant was on the ground convulsing, and the ambulance was taking him out, and they sued him for the pest, exposure to the pest control. So I don't know if that's a true story, but it was enough to always stick with me. So I would be very cautious about that because pest control is regulated. There's some pretty decent companies out there to deal with that are reasonable. Happy to share any of them. I've had a new guy that I got a recommendation from Matt Curry for some stuff. Very reasonable. I use Dotson too, but I find him on these one-off type stuff that I find myself with tenants and places that I normally don't keep pest control on a regular basis. He's great. Goes sprays, reasonable, and so far so good. So.
Yeah, I got a contract with Dotson. They're $53 a month every month, and you can't beat it.
They cover the basics. Now, if you get bed bugs, that's an additional charge. Yeah, but they like what Rick's talking about. You can do that, and that covers like ants and roaches and that kind of household stuff.
Dotson.
Dotson.
Yeah, don't cover rats.
Now see, they've covered that on me. At least maybe that's okay. That's interesting.
Maybe they charge me more. Maybe they charge more for that.
I know fleas, bed bugs. They even have dogs that'll come around and can detect bed bugs too. Like they've got all kinds of great services. So especially in multi-units, if you get some kind of infestation, you don't think you got rid of it, you can pay for a dog to come through and walk through your unit and sniff them out.
Dotson covers rats for me. I had a rat issue. They've worked on for me.
So, same as me, Brad.
Well, I haven't had any rats. I just didn't. I didn't think I seen that in the contract though.
Now they did have a problem setting out bait traps outside of units because junkies were coming and getting the rat poisoning out of the boxes, and somehow they used that they cut it with their heroin. And so
we were always afraid animals would get that, so we never did like to do that. We didn't want a dog or a cat to get poisoned off of that.
And that's a liability thing. Like just if you throw bait or throw anything on the ground and somebody's animal gets it, then I would worry about the liability of that. Now, if Dotson does it, it's going to be covered under them. But if you do it, I do think there's liability or exposure or kid or, whatever.
Is there anybody else that's brand new on this meeting? Sounds like no. Okay. There's some names I don't recognize, but sometimes I just don't remember because I have a bad memory. Okay. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about before we go?
We recently got 3 properties for the sheriff's tax sale. So we've been awarded the deeds. So I'm not quite sure. I see Tori, I think Tori's gone. I'm not quite sure. How would you, no, there she is. How would you guys handle it when you go up to tell them that you are now the property owner?
I would just
Nobody
take a
has-
letter. I would take, I mean, I kind of treat it the same way, because if I'm buying some property from someone, they're always really skittish about until the day you close. They don't want you talking to their tenants. So we always, you know, the day of the closing, have a packet ready, contact, questionnaire. Are you planning on staying? Are you, you know, what's the problems in your unit? Things of that nature. So kind of a welcome packet's what the approach I've always taken.
It's going to depend on who's in the unit. Is this tenants
We've
in the
done-
unit, or is this homeowners in the unit?
Homeowners for me.
That may be a
Be
fight.
a little bit
We
tough.
had one before.
That's gonna be a little more
I'm
difficult.
sorry.
That's gonna be a little more difficult since they're homeowners, I think. Because my friend bought a motel one time that was in some kind of bankruptcy and everything too. And he had an awful time getting possession of the property. I hope that don't happen to you.
Yeah, you
I
do
too.
have
We
to
had one
file
about a couple of
eviction.
years ago. Actually, we did.
You need to
Tell me
file an
again.
eviction, you know, give them 30-day notice.
Right.
You know, assuming, I mean, I assume they're not going to want to pay rent, obviously, or they would have paid their mortgage and paid their taxes. I don't know what the situation is, but yeah, obviously if they didn't want to keep up the house. So, but you definitely need to file an eviction. Because that's the only way you can get them
Do that
out.
through the
You have to have a
magistrate.
court order. You can't just go set their stuff out. So you'll have to evict them. And, you know, there's no lease. So you have to give them 30 days. Just give them a 30-day notice. And if they say, well, we're not leaving, then you have to file a, you know, wrongful occupation.
Well, the last 2 that we got, we had one who was, his mom had died and he didn't have anywhere to go. And so he stayed there for a while and then he left. The other one was it was a nice house. We got it for $800 back taxes. I don't know why she didn't pay it. She said she paid it, but then we had all the documentation of all the letters that they sent saying, hey, you know, you didn't pay your taxes and you know, this person has the deed now. So anyway, but I just asked her, you know, I said, how long do you need to get out? I said, I can give you 30 days. I said, maybe a little longer. And she said, well, can't I just stay here and keep it the way it is? It's just so wonderful. Well, it wasn't wonderful. You know, it was really, really bad. And what I had told her is that I really need to, if I'm going to rent it to you, I really need to have it emptied out so I can see what we're dealing with and what if I needed repairs to make. So she found another place to go, and it was like 40 days, I think, and she was out, which was a good little investment because it's for $800, and we've rented it now for 3 years. So I've got 2 more coming up, and I'm just kind of anxious about them because the lawyer did the title search and everything, and then one of them had, I think, 4 or 5 different relatives. One of them is deceased, but then all the relatives are there. Nobody paid any of the taxes for him. So I'm always worried that in about 3 years, somebody will come back and say, hey, you know, this is, I have a right to have this property. So, but I understand it, Terry, you tell me, I understand it that if they do that, they have to reimburse you for everything that you paid in the house. Is that correct, Tori?
Well, I don't know about everything. You know, you would have to make that argument. I mean, are you saying you like a completely remodel and then they would have to pay you for your remodeling expenses? That's not my understanding.
That was my understanding. I don't know.
That's not my understanding. So, because I just bought a house on auction, and the attorney advised me not to put very much money into it because and it's a total redo, and because they have that period of time where they can come back, And, but they have to go to court. They have to file an action. It's not like they can just come back, you
Right.
know. And so, but we are putting money into the house, but we're a little bit nervous. You know, we've got another few months left.
Yeah.
So, so someone would have to make a judgment, is what I'm saying. They can't just tell you, I want that property back and now I'm going to get it back. So they have to justify and they have to prove that they did not get notice. So that's our concern, you know, did the person get notice? And so if you're absolutely confident that the person got notice of the back taxes and of the sale, then you should be okay. But if there's a question, I think
Whenever they send it out from the sheriff's.
right. But I think what you're saying is there are errors, and that's always a problem because, you know, you're depending on someone to have located all of the errors and to have notified all of the errors. And so what you're saying is an error could come back and say, well, nobody noticed me. I'm the son of the person, and I'm entitled to inherit. So I should have gotten notice. So that's always an anxiety producing moment. Yes, I can see why you're anxious about it since it's since there are heirs involved. The laughing heirs that come back and say, ha ha, you know, I should have gotten something and you didn't give it to me. So.
Well, when I get the deed, it should have every single letter that they sent out certified with all their signatures and everything there from the, you know, that you get a copy from the mail, the post office.
Yeah. Oh, if you've
So
got
the
that.
last one, I felt really good.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah. If
sorry.
you've got, that's good if you've got that.
Yeah, they
Mhm.
put that on every deed. When you get your deed, that's all attached to the deed. It's a quick claim deed, but it's all those letters are attached with the signatures of who received them. And if they didn't receive them, then you get one with no signature. So that way you know which one you're going to have to probably watch for. And then also if there are children involved, minor children, they can come back when they're 21. It's my understanding.
No, 20.
So I don't know.
20. 2 years after the
20.
2 years after the age of 18. So it's 20.
So I'm gonna give it a try. The last two we got, one was really good. The other one we sold. We put
Yeah.
2,000 in it. We sold it for 10. So that wasn't bad, except I hated the capital gains tax I had to pay on it. But other than that, it was a little okay. Thank you, Tori.
Uh-huh.
Anybody else have anything? All right, sounds like no. So we will see you guys next month. And we're going to try to stick to the schedule of the second Thursday of the month. I had issues last month and we fell behind there, but we're going to try to keep it on track on the second. Thank goodness John texted me because I didn't realize that the second Thursday was coming up so soon in the month, this month. Would you guys be interested next month in doing an outside gathering? If we do that, we need to also do Zoom where we can include people that are outside the area. But would you guys be interested in going back to Joplin Park or somewhere and doing in person, but outside?
Joplin was nice. I mean, we could set something up over there, I think, with a mobile hotspot or a phone or whatever. So.
Yeah, I think we could do a Zoom to include people outside the area or people that just don't want to come out if it's hot or if it's raining. There are big shelters there, so if it is raining or something, we get under the shelters. But yeah, we should be able to set up out there with video and everything, and that way outside people could get in the mix too. What topics would you guys like to have next month? You guys are full of ideas. Yeah. All right. I guess John and I'll make something up then for next month.
I mean, I'm good with meeting at Joplin. I think would be a good place to do it.
Okay. Do you have any topic requests?
It sounds like the phones and the software, the phone software and the management software was of interest.
Yeah, I can. I can kind of research some of those since I need to research them for me anyway. I can research them, maybe do a comparison sheet on each of them and do that. Yeah.
Do a demo or
Is it-
something of one of them.
Yeah. Cause I know that, I mean, I hate when my phone rings now. I hate, like, for the first, 10 years of being a landlord, I didn't mind my phone ringing. That was money ringing. Now I'm like, oh, what idiot do I have to talk to now? Like, I don't have anything positive in me when the phone rings anymore. I hate when the phone rings. I hate when my text goes off because I know it's somebody asking a stupid question. That's a horrible outlook for me to have, but it's just the reality of like a, 20-year-in landlord.
I had an old landlord tell me a long time ago when I first got into business. She said that every time you get a new tenant, it's like adopting a new child. Tell them to clean up their room, pay their rent, do this, do that. So, that's pretty much what I've learned. I have all kinds of children now.
Yeah. And they're all special needs kids that don't even give anything back. Like most special needs kids are so sweet. And then they're just such like little balls of joy. Not the kids we have. Okay, well, we'll see you guys then next month and we'll go ahead and set it up at Jocklet Park, but also doing the Zoom so everybody can be included on it. See you guys later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody's cats.
I wanted to ask you, is my picture on gobbledygook to you too? Can you
It's
tell?
grainy, it's pixelated, but it's there.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I got new software on this computer and like I never found you guys today. And I had to download Zoom and all that again. But anyway, so I'm going to work on that. I think it's just maybe the video or something. I hope.
And Jordan, you just
Anyway,
logged back
thanks a
in.
lot.
Jordan just logged back in after we ended the meeting. Okay, I'll see you guys next month. Bye.
Bye-bye.